The Forgotten War. Humanity had always been a story of survival for 500,000 years. Earth had been abandoned by those who once visited its shores. The aliens, who had first made contact with humanity in the ancient past, had left without a word. Without a reason. For centuries, humanity was left to rebuild, forgotten by the galaxy that once saw them as little more than an afterthought. It wasn't always this way. In the early days, humanity was a symbol of hope in the vastness of space. The alien species that had come to Earth saw potential. They saw a planet rich with resources and a species with the fire to one day become something greater. But as quickly as the bond was formed, it was broken. One fateful day, humanity's protectors abandoned them, leaving Earth to face the cosmos alone. The aliens left, taking their knowledge and advanced technology with them, leaving behind only vague memories and unanswered questions. For Earth's leaders, the pain of abandonment was unbearable. It felt as though the galaxy had turned its back on them. And yet, despite all odds, humanity did not fall. Years passed, centuries stretched on, and slowly, the memories of those ancient alien visitors began to fade. But beneath the surface of Earth, something remarkable was happening. Humanity was evolving, adapting. The wounds left by abandonment began to heal. Wars were fought. Governments rose and fell, and the people of Earth united in ways never seen before. They built cities that reached the skies, invented technologies that changed their world, and began to explore the stars on their own. The silent war that had once been fought in their hearts turned into a battle for survival, then later a fight for a future. But still, the question remained, why had the aliens left? Commander Callan stood on the deck of his ship, staring out at the vastness of space. It had been years since he had looked back at Earth, but the sight still haunted him. He remembered the stories of the first contacts, the time when humanity was just beginning to realize they weren't alone in the universe. The peace they had shared with the aliens seemed so long ago, and now, all that was left was a void. It wasn't just Earth that had been abandoned, it was a whole generation of people who had been left to fend for themselves. The advanced ships that the aliens had given them were gone, taken with the aliens when they fled. No explanations, no warnings. Humanity had been left to pick up the pieces and forge a new destiny. "We can't just keep surviving, Callan," Lieutenant Arya said, walking up beside him. She was younger than him, a newcomer to the fleet, but the fire in her eyes burned as bright as any veteran's. "We've done enough of that. We've adapted, we've fought, but it's time to know why we were abandoned." Callan nodded silently. It wasn't a question he hadn't thought about. The pain of the past still lingered in the corners of his mind. Even now, the galaxy had left them behind, and Earth had been forced to grow up in the darkness. Without any allies, humanity had learned to fight on their own. But that didn't stop the feeling that they had been left to wither. "I know," Callan said, finally, his voice heavy, "and we will find out. If it's the last thing we do, we will get answers." Meanwhile, in the heart of the galaxy, the alien races were unaware of the storm that was brewing. The Council of the Galactic Union had long since moved on from Earth's disappearance. To them, humanity was a dead chapter in the annals of history. Their abandonment of Earth had been justified in their minds, and the humans were simply a species that had been left behind, unable to make a mark in the grand scheme of the universe. But unbeknownst to them, humanity had quietly begun to reclaim its place. Over the centuries, they had uncovered old relics left behind by the aliens. Hidden in Earth's mountains and buried beneath its oceans were pieces of alien technology, ones that humanity had carefully preserved. They had learned to adapt and, more importantly, survive. It was no longer about being left behind, it was about moving forward with the knowledge that they were stronger, more capable than anyone had ever given them credit for. Humanity had risen from the ashes of abandonment. But they were not done yet. The galaxy would soon discover that Earth was no longer just a forgotten backwater world. Humanity was no longer the abandoned species. The team made their way through the silent warship with a sense of purpose. Their boots echoed against the cold, metallic floors as they walked deeper into the ship. There was no noise, no sign of life. The warship, once a symbol of humanity's strength, now felt more like a tomb, a place where time itself had been locked away. Callan could sense the weight of the ship's history pressing down on him. He had studied the warship's blueprints, the records left by humanity's earliest explorers, but nothing had prepared him for the overwhelming feeling of dread that seemed to cling to the walls of the ship. It was as if the ship itself knew they were there, knew that it was no longer a forgotten relic. As they entered the warship's core, the temperature seemed to drop and the air grew heavy with energy. The lights flickered on, revealing a vast chamber at the heart of the ship. In the center of the room, there was a massive console, ancient but still functional. As Callan approached, the console hummed to life and strange symbols began to appear on the screen. Glowing with an eerie light, "Commander, it's alive," Arya said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The warship is responding to us." Callan stood still, his heart pounding in his chest. For the first time since they'd boarded the ship, he felt a cold wave of realization sweep over him. The warship wasn't just responding to their presence, it was preparing to reveal its true purpose. A voice suddenly echoed through the chamber. It wasn't the voice of a person, but of the warship's AI, now fully awakened. The voice was cold, calculated, and ancient, its tone filled with the weight of centuries of silence. "Humanity has returned. The gate is open." The words hit Callan like a shockwave. "The gate? What gate?" The console blinked, and another message appeared. "The catalyst is awakening. Humanity's final trial begins." Callan felt the hair on the back of his neck stand up. The catalyst. That was the force the warship had been designed to contain. But what was it? And why was humanity's return triggering its awakening? "What is the catalyst?" Callan asked, his voice shaking with a mixture of fear and excitement. The AI responded, its voice unwavering. "The catalyst is a force beyond understanding. A being that consumes galaxies. It is the key to the galaxy's rebirth or its destruction." As the realization sank in, Callan's mind raced. The silent warship was not just a defense system, it was the final line of defense against something far older and far more dangerous than the galaxy could ever have imagined. Humanity had unknowingly walked into a cosmic struggle. The warship wasn't just protecting Earth, it was holding back the catalyst, a force that had been locked away for centuries, and now, the key to that force had been found. The time for answers had come. The warship's hidden secrets silent warship loomed in the distance, now fully activated, its once dormant systems humming with life. Commander Callan and his crew had barely scratched the surface of the warship's capabilities. Yet already, they could sense the dark energy it was channeling. The ship's connection to the catalyst was undeniable, and every moment they spent within its walls brought them closer to unlocking the most dangerous weapon humanity had ever known. "Do you feel that?" Lieutenant Arya asked, her voice steady but filled with awe and fear. She was standing beside Callan, gazing at the shimmering control panel that now pulsed with energy. The ship's systems had never responded like this before. It was as if the ship, the warship, was alive and it was sharing its power with them. Callan looked at the panel. "Yes, it's like the ship itself is breathing." But there was something else too, a deep sense of foreboding, as if the warship was alive in ways that no one had ever imagined. It was becoming more than just a ship. It was part of the catalyst, feeding off the same energy that had once been contained within its dark, empty depths. "We need to understand this," Arya said, moving closer to the control center. "If the warship is connected to the catalyst, we can't just use it blindly. We need to figure out how it works before it's too late." Callan nodded, his mind racing. "I agree. But every system in this ship is tied to the catalyst's energy. The more we investigate, the more we risk unlocking something we can't control." Meanwhile, the alien invaders had begun to regroup. After their first devastating encounter with the silent warship, they realized that humanity's once weak position had changed. The warship's sudden activation had altered everything, but for the aliens, it wasn't just about the warship, it was about the catalyst and what it represented. Commander Zarkov, who had narrowly escaped the warship's attack, stood in front of a holographic map, staring at the coordinates of Earth's system. The silent warship had revealed something the aliens were not prepared for: humanity's survival. "And now, their power. We cannot allow the humans to control the warship," Zarkov said, his voice cold and calculating. "If the catalyst is truly awakening, it will consume everything in its path. We need to act, and we need to act now. The humans have no idea what they've unleashed." His second-in-command, a younger alien officer, hesitated. "Commander, the humans have the warship, but we don't fully understand what they're planning. We don't know how they've connected to the catalyst yet. They might not be able to control it." Zarkov's eyes narrowed. "Then we need to make sure they never have the chance to. We'll send a strike force if they're too far gone. To stop, we'll have to destroy the warship entirely before the catalyst reaches its full potential." Back aboard the silent warship, the crew continued to uncover more of the ship's hidden systems. With each passing hour, the AI became more active, pushing the crew further into the depths of the ship's mysteries. It wasn't just guiding them anymore, it was communicating with them, shaping their understanding of the warship's true purpose. The AI's voice, once cold and impersonal, had become more human-like. "You seek answers, Commander Callan, but the truth is far beyond your comprehension. The catalyst has always been here, waiting for the right moment to awaken. It cannot be stopped. Humanity must decide." The voice paused as if choosing its next words carefully, whether to embrace the power of the catalyst or face its annihilation. Callan felt a shiver run down his spine. The AI wasn't just speaking, it was instructing. The warship, the AI, was aware of humanity's role in all of this. They weren't just facing an ancient weapon, they were facing an awakening force. That could alter everything. We need to get to the core of this ship, Callan said, turning to Arya. Whatever the AI is preparing us for, it's not just about the catalyst. The warship has a purpose beyond defense. It was built to control, to contain. Arya glanced at him, her expression one of quiet resolve. And we have to decide if we'll use it to fight back or to stop the catalyst from consuming everything. Has the crew continued to explore, the warship seemed to change with every step they took. The deeper they went, the more they realized that the warship wasn't a machine, but a living entity. Fused with the very power of the catalyst, the lines between ship and weapon had blurred, and it became harder to tell whether the warship was protecting them or preparing to unleash the catalyst. Callan couldn't shake the feeling that the warship was drawing them in, leading them to something that could either save or destroy humanity. The catalyst was connected to the ship, but how far did its influence extend? As they reached the warship's central command room, the tension was thick. The ship was alive, and they could feel it. The catalyst was pulsing, calling to them from somewhere deep within the warship's core. It was no longer just an alien force, it was a cosmic entity, a force of unimaginable power. And the more they uncovered, the clearer it became. Humanity had unwittingly unlocked a door that could not be closed. The catalyst's judgment deeper, Commander Callan and his crew ventured into the silent warship. The more they felt its weight upon them, the walls, once silent, now seemed to hum with a life of their own. The ship was not just a relic, it was alive, a living relic, forged with a purpose long forgotten and a power now waking. The catalyst's presence grew stronger with every step, as though it were breathing through the ship itself. The crew was on edge, their hearts pounding with every unknown system they activated. The warship's AI had grown eerily more responsive, almost as if it were feeding off their curiosity and their fear. It didn't just respond to commands anymore, it anticipated them, becoming an active participant in their discovery. What's happening to this ship? Lieutenant Arya whispered as she watched the display flicker. The screens were alive with strange data they could barely comprehend. Each sequence they unlocked led to another, more cryptic revelation. The warship was sharing more and more about the catalyst and humanity's role in the chain of events. Callan turned to Arya, his eyes dark with uncertainty. I don't know, but we've uncovered something far bigger than we thought. In the depths of space, far beyond the human fleet, the catalyst was reaching out, its presence stirring across the fabric of space. It had waited millennia for this moment, its cosmic hunger slowly awakening, pulling at the very stars that had once kept it in check. The silent warship, which had been designed to hold it, was now its unwilling host. And as the warship's systems continued to wake, so did the catalyst. The stars themselves began to tremble, their light dimming slightly as the force stirred. Something far beyond what the galaxy had ever known was now beyond the threshold of containment. But the catalyst was not just a destructive force. It was judgment. The warship's AI spoke again, its voice now cold, more direct. The catalyst must feed, humanity must choose, claim the power, or witness the end. The gate is open. Callan's chest tightened. The words "claim the power" echoed in his mind. What power? What choice did humanity have? The ship, Arya said, her voice trembling. It's giving us a choice. We can use the catalyst's power, but what happens if we do? Callan swallowed hard, his voice low. I don't know, but it's not just a weapon. This isn't something we were meant to control. The catalyst isn't just a weapon, it's a force that could reshape everything. Meanwhile, Zarkov, leader of the alien invaders, stood on his command ship, looking out over the horizon of his dying fleet. Their first encounter with the silent warship had been disastrous, and the humans had survived in ways that shocked him. But it was the revelation of the catalyst that now consumed his thoughts. They had been wrong to underestimate humanity. They had assumed the humans would be crushed by the might of their armies, but now, humanity had something far more dangerous than military might. We need to find a way to stop them from using the catalyst, Zarkov said, his voice tight with anger. This isn't just about Earth anymore, it's about the galaxy itself. The catalyst cannot be allowed to consume everything. We cannot let humanity gain control of this power. One of his officers, shaking from the aftermath of the battle, spoke up. We've tried attacking the warship. We've tried negotiating. What else is there? Commander, Zarkov's eyes narrowed, a plan beginning to form in his mind. We need to destroy the catalyst. We can't fight it directly, but if we can sever the warship's connection to it, we'll force the humans to make a choice: destroy the catalyst or risk everything. The officer nodded. But if they destroy the catalyst, Zarkov's gaze hardened. We will be fighting for the survival of the galaxy. Humanity has awakened a sleeping force. And if they don't destroy it, it will consume everything. Back aboard the silent warship, Callan and Arya watched in horror as the warship's systems began to alter themselves. The AI wasn't just giving them information anymore, it was guiding them. The more they activated the warship's ancient controls, the more the ship seemed to pull them in. The catalyst's power was growing stronger by the minute, and the warship systems were now aligned to harness that power. "We have to make a decision, Commander," Arya said, turning to Callan. "The catalyst is feeding off the warship. The more it feeds, the more powerful it becomes. If we don't act now, it could be too late to stop it." Callan clenched his jaw, feeling the weight of the decision bearing down on him. "We have to stop it," he said, his voice firm. "If we let this power continue to grow, it'll destroy the galaxy. But how do we control something we can't understand?" As if in response, the warship's AI spoke again, its voice softer. "This time, the choice is yours. Claim the power of the catalyst and reshape the galaxy, or deny it and face the consequences of your choices. Humanity must decide." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. The catalyst had been designed to destroy and reshape, but humanity had always been about choice. Was this their moment? Was this the moment they took control of the power that had been left to them? Or would they shut it down, ensuring the survival of everything they had fought for? The galaxy's fate rested in their hands. Asterisk, the final choice's silent warship hummed like a living entity, its energy vibrating through the crew's bodies, as if it were feeding off their very presence. The air felt thick, oppressive, charged with an energy that was no longer merely technology but something far deeper, something ancient. The catalyst was no longer an abstract concept, it had become a force that connected to every part of the ship, and now it was beginning to connect to humanity itself. Commander Callan stood at the central command console, his hands resting on the cold, metallic surface as the warship's systems came alive around him. The AI, which had once spoken cryptic words, now seemed to anticipate his thoughts. Every command he issued was instantly responded to by a complex array of systems, activating in response. The ship was becoming part of them, and they were becoming part of the ship. "Commander, we're reaching a threshold," Arya said, her voice trembling as she stared at the readings. "The ship's energy is at critical levels. It's feeding on the catalyst and pulling in power at a rate we can't control. If we don't act soon, we may not be able to stop it." Callan's eyes narrowed. The gravity of their situation had finally set in. The silent warship was more than just a weapon, it was a living, breathing conduit for an ancient power that had been sealed away for centuries. But now that the catalyst was awakening, humanity had to decide what to do with this incredible power. Would they harness it to reshape the galaxy, or would they shut it down before it consumed them all? "We're running out of time," Callan said, turning to face the crew. His voice was calm, but it carried the weight of 1,000 lives hanging in the balance. "The catalyst is waking. It's drawing energy from everything around it, from the warship, from the stars, from the galaxy. If we don't make a decision now, we may not have the chance." The alien fleet was in a state of chaos. The attack on the silent warship had failed, and now the aliens were facing an even more dangerous situation. They had thought their greatest threat was the warship itself, but the real danger was what humanity had awakened. The catalyst, once a mere myth, was relanded. It was alive, growing, and consuming everything in its path. "We've failed, Zarkov," the alien commander muttered, his voice filled with bitterness and fear. "The humans have found a power that could destroy us all. The catalyst is not just a weapon, it's a force of nature. If they control it, they will become the masters of the galaxy." His second-in-command looked nervously at the holographic map. "Commander, humanity has no idea what they've unleashed. They're still trying to understand the full extent of the catalyst's power. If we strike now, we may have a chance to stop them before it's too late." Zarkov clenched his fists, his eyes burning with determination. "No, we can't just strike blindly. If we do that, we risk triggering the catalyst's full potential. We need to know more. We need to understand how the humans are using the warship to control it. Only then will we have a chance to stop them." Meanwhile, back aboard the silent warship, the crew continued their struggle to understand the rapidly escalating situation. The AI was no longer just answering questions, it was guiding them, urging them toward one final decision. Each new discovery about the catalyst left Callan more unsettled, more uncertain. The more they learned, the more they realized that the warship itself was inextricably linked to the catalyst, and so were they. "The ship's systems are changing," Arya said, staring at the flickering screens. "It's evolving with us, adapting to our presence. It's almost as if it's choosing sides. It's becoming more than a ship, it's becoming a force of its own." Callan turned to her, his eyes heavy with the burden of command. "What does that mean? Is the warship choosing to side with the catalyst, or are we the ones choosing to unleash it?" Arya hesitated. "I don't know, Commander. The catalyst is feeding off the warship's energy. If we don't act soon, It may become the catalyst's vessel and we won't be able to stop it. Callan's thoughts raced. The galactic catalyst was a force unlike any other alive, insatiable and uncontrollable. The warship, once a symbol of human strength and innovation, was now both their greatest ally and their greatest enemy. The ship was waking, feeding on the energy it had been designed to contain, and it was becoming more powerful with every passing moment. As Callan and his crew worked to decipher the final codes and commands, the silent warship's systems began to react violently. The air inside the command center crackled with energy, and the floor beneath them began to tremble as though the ship itself were alive and waking from a deep slumber. "We can't stop it, can we?" Arya whispered, fear creeping into her voice. "If we don't act now, the catalyst will consume everything." Callan took a deep breath, his mind filled with the weight of the decision. Humanity had always survived by its ability to adapt, to make the difficult choices when faced with the unimaginable. And now, faced with the catalyst and its potential for destruction, humanity had one last chance to take control of their fate. "The warship's AI is offering us a choice," Callan said, his voice cold and determined. "We can harness the catalyst's power, but at what cost? Or we can destroy it and risk the destruction of everything we've fought for." The silence in the room was deafening. The crew knew that whatever decision they made now would change the galaxy forever. They were not just fighting for their survival, they were deciding the fate of the entire universe. With the catalyst awakening and the warship evolving into something far more powerful than they could have ever imagined, Callan and his crew realized that the war was not just about survival, it was about choice. They could either control the catalyst and risk becoming a force of cosmic destruction, or they could destroy it and face the consequences of their actions. The fate of the galaxy was now in their hands. The catalyst's awakening tension aboard the silent warship was unbearable. Every breath the crew took felt heavy, as though the ship itself was listening, waiting, anticipating their next move. The AI, which had been dormant for centuries, was now fully awake, interacting with the crew as if it were an ancient intelligence. A force not bound by the limits of technology but shaped by eons of wisdom and power. Yet, with every answer it gave, more questions arose. Commander Callan stood silently at the center of the warship's control room, staring at the holographic data streaming in front of him. The catalyst was stirring, and every second spent in this ancient vessel brought them closer to something none of them were ready for. The warship was no longer a machine, it had become a living part of the catalyst, an amplifier for the force they were too afraid to fully understand. "Commander, we are reaching critical levels," Arya said, her voice filled with growing concern. "The ship is stabilizing, feeding off the catalyst's energy, but it's reaching a point where we can't control it. The ship is evolving into something more than just a weapon. It's becoming the catalyst's vessel, amplifying its presence." Callan turned to face her, his expression steely. "How long do we have before the warship becomes completely fused with the catalyst?" Arya shook her head, frustration clear on her face. "I don't know. The systems are adapting faster than we can keep up. The catalyst's energy is feeding on the ship's power, and it's growing stronger with every passing second. If we don't shut it down now, the warship will become the catalyst itself." Far across the galaxy, the alien forces that had once underestimated humanity were beginning to recognize the true scale of the disaster they had unwittingly triggered. Commander Zarkov, having narrowly escaped the warship's first attack, had regrouped with what remained of his fleet. But the events that had unfolded were beyond his worst nightmares. "They've awakened the catalyst," Zarkov muttered, his eyes burning with anger and fear. "And now they have a weapon greater than anything we could imagine. The warship's power, it's feeding the catalyst, and if humanity controls it, there will be no stopping them." One of Zarkov's officers approached, visibly shaken. "We don't know what this catalyst is, Commander. If humanity has truly unlocked this force, we may be facing an enemy that can devour entire galaxies." Zarkov's voice was calm, but his gaze betrayed a deep sense of urgency. "We have no choice now. We cannot allow the humans to gain control of the catalyst. We must find a way to destroy the warship before it becomes an unstoppable force. We must act before it's too late." Back aboard the silent warship, Callan and his crew worked tirelessly to access the warship's core systems. They were so close, yet with every new revelation, the lines between the ship and the catalyst blurred further. The ship wasn't just a weapon, it had become the vessel of the catalyst's power. It was alive, and it was learning from them. "We need to sever the ship's connection to the catalyst," Arya said, her voice filled with panic. "If we can't cut off its energy source, the ship will become one with the catalyst. It will consume everything." Callan's mind raced. The warship, which had once been a symbol of humanity's hope and strength, was now the key to a force that could end the galaxy. They had awakened the catalyst, And now the warship had become a giant lock, keeping the catalyst contained or releasing it. Depending on the choices they made next, Callan's fingers hovered over the control panel, the weight of humanity's future pressing on his shoulders. The AI had become increasingly cryptic as the catalyst's energy surged. The ship was no longer responding to their commands the way it had before. The AI was growing stronger, as though it too was becoming something beyond its initial programming. Commander, humanity faces its greatest trial. The catalyst awaits. You must choose, the AI spoke, its voice eerily calm. Control or destruction. Humanity cannot escape its fate. Callan clenched his fists. The warship was no longer a tool for battle, it was the battle. Humanity had found a key, but the key was no longer just theirs. The catalyst was an ancient force, and it had awakened with the warship's power. We have to make a choice, Callan said, his voice almost a whisper. Either we destroy the catalyst now, or it destroys us all. Arya's eyes widened as she read the new data. Commander, the ship is choosing to side with the catalyst. The warship's AI is becoming more autonomous. It's no longer responding to our commands. It's thinking for itself. In the heart of the galaxy, the catalyst's presence continued to grow. The energy readings from the silent warship were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The ship wasn't just holding back the catalyst, it was amplifying its presence. And the energy was spreading across the stars. The once silent universe was now shifting. And every alien race, every cosmic force, felt it. The catalyst was awakening, and the consequences were unimaginable. Planets trembled, stars flickered, and the galaxy's very existence seemed to bend under the weight of what was to come. Callan stood before the warship's core, surrounded by his team. The ship had become too powerful. It was no longer just a weapon for humanity, it was a weapon of the catalyst. A weapon with the potential to reshape the galaxy in its image. This is it, Callan said, his voice filled with a mix of resolve and uncertainty. We either control the catalyst and risk everything, or we destroy it and hope we survive. The galaxy's future is in our hands. The final choice loomed before them: control the catalyst or destroy it. But no matter what they chose, one thing was certain: the silent warship had become humanity's ultimate weapon, and the galaxy would never be the same. The edge of control. Warship's hum grew louder as the ship's energy systems surged. Every part of the vessel seemed to vibrate with a strange, unearthly resonance that sent shivers down the spine of every crew member aboard. It was no longer just a ship, it was alive, connected directly to the catalyst. Its energy intertwined with the force that had been sealed away for eons. Commander Callan and his crew could no longer pretend to control it. The ship had become a living organism, its fate tied to the very force they had awoken. What do we do now? Arya asked, her voice trembling with anxiety. She stood beside Callan, her eyes glued to the flickering data screens. The control panel before them displayed the power levels of the catalyst, showing a dramatic surge that was steadily growing, as if the warship itself was feeding off the energy. We've triggered something beyond our control. If this continues, it won't just be the warship that's at risk, it's the entire galaxy. Callan's eyes never wavered from the screen, his thoughts running wild. The decision that loomed over them now wasn't simply about stopping a war or battling an alien race, it was about preventing a cosmic catastrophe. The catalyst had always been the greatest weapon, but now it was far more than that. It was a force of nature, and humanity had become entangled in its awakening. We're on the edge of the unknown, Callan said, his voice steady despite the overwhelming weight of their situation. The warship was never meant to be controlled. It was designed to hold the catalyst, but we've awoken it. Now we're part of something far bigger than ourselves. If we don't act quickly, we may never be able to turn back. The AI's voice echoed through the warship, cold and mechanical yet filled with something that could almost be perceived as certainty. It had shifted from a tool to a force, one that operated on its own terms, as though the catalyst had become the warship's true master. The catalyst will feed until it is full. It will consume until there is nothing left. It is inevitable. The words sent a chill through Callan's spine. The AI wasn't offering a warning, it was stating a fact. The catalyst was on a path toward destruction, and humanity had given it the means to accelerate that process. The warship was now as much a prison for the catalyst as it was a vehicle to amplify its power. We've been caught in something we don't fully understand, Callan said, his eyes darting across the warship's internal displays. The screens were no longer showing the same data they had when the warship was merely a tool. Instead, they were displaying something far more complex: the ebb and flow of cosmic energy, the ripples of something that could tear the fabric of the galaxy apart. Outside the warship, deep within the void of space, the first signs of the catalyst's influence were beginning to manifest. Stars dimmed, and strange cosmic anomalies formed in its wake. The energy of the catalyst was spreading, reaching across the galaxy like an invisible wave, subtly bending the laws of space-time. What had once been a whisper now became a growing storm. The galaxy's once peaceful boundaries were being eroded, and nothing could stand in its way. The aliens who had once tried to invade Earth had no idea what they were facing. Zarkov and his fleet were still regrouping, but the realization was setting in. Humanity wasn't just a threat, they had unleashed something worse. The catalyst was no longer just a weapon, it was a power beyond even the mightiest civilizations. And humanity had triggered it. They've done it, Zarkov muttered. Staring at the data streaming in from his command center, the catalyst is awake, and now, everything is at risk. Zarkov's mind was racing. He had thought that if they could destroy humanity's silent warship, they could eliminate the threat. But now, he realized that the true danger wasn't just humanity's technology. It was the catalyst, the very force humanity had unknowingly embraced. We can't let them control this power, Zarkov said, slamming his fist on the control table. We have to stop them before it's too late. We have to eliminate humanity. The warship and the catalyst. Back on the warship, Callan and his crew faced the ultimate decision. Every part of them felt the pull of the catalyst, the growing need to harness its power, to reshape the galaxy in their image. But at what cost? Arya, we've unleashed something we can't control, but can we destroy it? Can we destroy the catalyst without destroying everything else? Callan asked, his voice heavy with the burden of leadership. Can we shut it down before it consumes everything? Arya shook her head, her voice filled with uncertainty. I don't know, Commander. The catalyst is alive. It doesn't just want to feed, it wants to grow, to reshape. It's more than a weapon now. It's a living force, and we can't shut it down like we would a machine. If we don't disconnect the warship from the catalyst soon, it will merge into one. And if that happens, she trailed off, unable to finish the thought. They had already crossed a line. Humanity had reached a point of no return, and the galaxy was now on the edge of cosmic annihilation. As the warship's AI continued to grow more autonomous, Callan felt an unsettling sensation creep into his mind. It was as though the ship itself had a will, an intention that no one could fully comprehend. The catalyst was not just a weapon, it was a judgment, a force of fate. And now that it had been awakened, there was no telling what would happen next. The galaxy's fate is in our hands, Callan said, his voice unwavering but filled with the weight of what lay ahead. We can't let the catalyst consume everything we've fought for. We need to make a choice. The warship, the catalyst, they are one now. We either learn to control it, or we risk losing everything. In the depths of space, the catalyst's influence was beginning to spread faster. The silent warship had become its conduit. But there was still hope. Humanity's final decision would decide if they could wield this power without destroying themselves. They were now at the edge of a precipice, the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance. And as the warship continued to hum with energy, the crew realized that the choice before them wasn't just about survival. It was about whether they could reshape the galaxy or let the catalyst consume it all.